Good evening, race fans. Welcome back to another live episode number 4 of the Push to Pass podcast. I am Derik Vance, and it's been an off week, I think, to say the least, for all of the IndyCar drivers in the 2022 IndyCar season. But they will ramp things back up next weekend when they are at Mid-Ohio for the Honda Mid-Ohio Grand Prix. I believe is what they'll be racing at next weekend. But before we get into any of that, like I said, welcome you. Thank you for returning for episode number 4. Hopefully, as you look down at the bottom of your screen, you do see the different social media outlets to follow, if you would please, on social media, Facebook, Getter, True Social, and Twitter, just by searching Push to Pass Podcast. Hopefully, joining me this evening is supposed to be, and we'll see if that happens or not, fellow IndyCar journalist Tim May. A lot of you may know Tim for his coverage, specifically in the realm of college football, Ohio State football to be exact. So hopefully Tim May is able to join us at around 9:15 so we can discuss what has been a interesting season, to say the least. We are at the midpoint, as the scroll says down there at the bottom, the midpoint of the 2022 IndyCar season. A lot of intrigue, I think a lot of drama left to play out. Let's take a look at the current standings, point standings as they are right now. You have Indianapolis 500 winner Marcus Ericsson with the top spot right now with 293 points. Following him is a pair of Penske teammates. First, Will Power, 266 points, and then last week's winner there at Road America, Joseph Newgaard, at 261 points. Checking in next, number 4 is Pato Award, 248 points. Following him in a close 5th is Alex Palou at 246 points. Following him, his Chip Ganassi teammate, Scott Dixon, with 224 points. Next, number 7, checking in, Alexander Rossi, 218 points. Next, the other Aero Mclaren SP car, which some news coming out today about 2023 for Felix Rosenquist. He is 8th in points at 203. Number 9, Scott McLaughlin. He has 199 points. Rounding out the top 10, Simon Pagenaud with 197 points. Checking in at 11th in points is Colton Herta. What an interesting up and down roller coaster first half of the year Colton has had, to say the least, at 196 points. Next, his teammate Roman Grosjean with 174 points. Then you find the first of 2, well, actually 3, Ed Carpenter Racing cars. First at 13, Connor Daly with 171 points. Then next, his teammate, number 4, or 14th in points, Rinus VeeKay. And I think what a disappointing first half of the year Rinus has had with 161 points. Following him, at 15, Graham Rahal, 159 points. And then you have Christian Lundgaard with 140 points. The other Meyershank Racing car, Elio Castroneves, coming in with 136 points. And then you find Takuma Sato at 18 with 133 points. Next, David Malukas of Dale Coyne Racing with 123 points. And then Jack Harvey, 105 points. Kyle Kirkwood, which a lot of talk about him going to Andretti next year for 2023. He has 93 points. Callum Ilott, and I think this is a gentleman that has a high ceiling. It's hard to say what his future holds, but a great driver to say the least. Checks in at number 22 with 90 points. Rookie Delvin DiFrancesco has 86 points. Number 24 ranked Jimmy Johnson, 85 points. And now you get to some of the individuals that are on a one race basis. Number 25, Tony Kanaan, 78 points. Santino Ferrucci, which we've had discussions on and off this podcast about his future. With who knows what racing team. He is 26th in points with 71 points. Dalton Kellett, 62 points rather. Tatiana Calderon, 53 points. J.R. Hildebrand, 53 points as well. And then you find the owner of Ed Carpenter Racing, Ed Carpenter himself, 49 points. Juan Pablo Montoya, one race, the Indianapolis 500, 44 points, along with Marco Andretti, one race as well, 17 points. And then you have following that, rounding this out, Sage Karam with 14 points, Stephen Wilson with 10 points, and then Simona De Salvestro with 9 points. So that is your look at the current 2022 point standings. I'm sure if Tim is able to join us, I've spoke with him sporadically. So hopefully he did get the invite link and he'll be able to join us here in about 10 minutes or so. Recapping the first half of the year. Remember, as always, the IndyCar season opened up with the Grand Prix of St. Petersburg, where you've seen Scott McLaughlin pick up his first win of the year. And then it was a roll so far for Joseph Newgarden at Texas Motor Speedway. He scored a win there, and then he backed that up by scoring another win at the Grand Prix of Long Beach. Moving on from there, we were in Alabama for the Grand Prix of Alabama, which was won by Pato Award. That was Chevrolet's. Believe it or not, they were 4 out of 4 out of the gates in 2022. And then after that, we moved into the month of May. First, it was the GMR Grand Prix out at IMS, which was won in a rain-soaked race by Colton Herta. And then the big race, the biggest race of the year, the Indianapolis 500, which was won by fellow Swede Marcus Ericsson. And then we moved on to Detroit, Belle Isle, to say the least there. Last race ever can't say ever, but last race at Belle Isle, as that will move to downtown Detroit in 2023. And that was won by, again, fellow Penske Will Power. And then Penske backs it up again with Joseph Newgarden winning his third race of the year, the Grand Prix of Road America. So what a first half, not only to say for Team Penske, but for Joseph Newgarden, who has racked up 3 wins already in this first half of the year, and then also has taken home, as we touched on last week, a cool $1 million for winning on a oval, winning on a street course, and winning on a road course as well. So congratulations to him. Looking forward to the second half of the year. Like I said, the IndyCar drivers open up that second half of the year next weekend, the Honda Indy 200 at Mid-Ohio. And then what a calendar, tough calendar coming up for the IndyCar series. Following Mid-Ohio, we go across the border north to Toronto for the Honda Indy race. I guess that's what that is. Honda Indy race on July 17th. And then the following weekend, everybody's looking forward to this. A lot of testing this week as well, which we'll get into. as the show unfolds. But Iowa, there is a double weekend race back at the Iowa Speedway, if you believe that or not. You have the HyVeeDeals.com 250 on Saturday, and then on Sunday to round out the weekend, you have the Hy-Vee Salute to Farmers 300 there as well. And then following the double weekend at Iowa, the IndyCar series comes back to the road course here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway for the Gallagher Grand Prix, which rounds out the month of July on Saturday, July 30th. And then going into the month of August, the calendar of August, starting out a big weekend down in Nashville, down in Music City, for the Big Machine Music City Grand Prix in downtown Nashville. Highly suggest you go and check that out yourself if you are within driving distance. And then a little bit of a break between weekends. The series kicks back up August 20th at Bermuda Automotive Group 500. And then two more races after that will round out the 2022 season. First, on September 4th, the Grand Prix of Portland. And then to finish the 2022 IndyCar season, you have the Firestone Grand Prix of Montera. So what a remaining schedule that the IndyCar has left here. Like I said, we are at the midway point, and a lot of intrigue, a lot of interesting storylines, I think, coming out of the first half of the year. First, you had, like I said, Team Penske, Chevrolet, jumping right out of the gates and winning the first three races there with Scott McLaughlin, and two with Joseph Newgaard. And I think the way this schedule sets up, and hopefully Tim's able to join us here in the next few minutes, because I would love to get his take on this. But I think the way the schedule sets up, it sets up well for Joseph Newgarden, the remaining tracks. He is very dominant at the remaining tracks that the IndyCar series has yet or will return to. So he's definitely going to be one, I think, to keep an eye on as this second half, as they get the second half kicked off next weekend. Definitely a title contender, to say the least. But there is some news, even though like I said, the IndyCar series has been on this hiatus here the last few days. A few pieces of news to push along. First, has to do actually more with Indy Lights in 2023. It was announced this week that Firestone is going to be the exclusive tire supplier to the Indy Lights in 2023. As part of the grand opening of Firestone's Advanced Tire Production Center in the great state of Ohio, Akron, Ohio, to be exact, IndyCar and Firestone officials announced plans for Firestone to become the sole tire supplier for Indy Lights beginning in 2023. The announcement highlights Firestone's plans to expand its partnership with IndyCar, as the company is also the exclusive tire supplier for the NTT IndyCar Series, North America's premier open wheel series. Quote, Firestone continues to be a phenomenal partner, said IndyCar president Jay Fry. We are proud to see that our relationship is expanding into supplying tires for both of our series. Their attention to detail, safety, and performance is unmatched. Supplying their world-class product to the NTT IndyCar Series and Indy Lights reflects Firestone's commitment to IndyCar's present and future. Don't forget, the move will mark a return for Firestone to IndyCar's developmental series, as the Bridgestone brands Firestone and Dayton supplied tires for Indy Lights, if you recall, from 1991 to 2013. Some more quotes here. Quote, we'll look forward to expanding our partnership with IndyCar to supply tires for Indy Lights starting in 2023, said Lisa Boggs, Director of Motorsports, Bridgestone Americas. We know the importance this series has for technology advancement and driver development and are proud to be part of the journey. In the fall of 2021, IndyCar assumed total control of Indy Lights operations. The 2022 season began a more exclusive atmosphere with the NTT IndyCar Series, with integration in marketing, digital assets, and race officiating. Quote, we want to thank Cooper Tires, who has been a partner with Indy Lights since 2014, said Indy Lights director Levi Jones. Their assistance while IndyCar assumed operational control was crucial to our success. With Firestone, we cannot wait to begin this new era, which will align the entire IndyCar paddock and help our rising stars reach their goal of competing one day in the IndyCar Series. Reminder, the 2022 Indy Lights Championship continues Sunday, July 13th, as at the aforementioned Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. Coverage of that race begins at 10:35 a.m. Eastern Time, and you can find that on Peacock Premium. Also, coverage is available from the IndyCar Radio Network with the audio via the IndyCar app powered by NTT Data. So don't forget that as well. And like I said, we did have some testing going on this week. As like I said, this has been a couple weeks off for the IndyCar series since their brutal May and beginning of June. We did have some testing this past Monday that actually took place at Iowa Speedway, and again, that is where IndyCar will pick things back up next weekend. And surprisingly enough, and I know this probably doesn't come as a surprise to many, Joseph Newgarden was the fastest car at the Iowa testing site. This past Monday, 19 NTT IndyCar Series drivers were in action at the 0.875 mile Iowa Oval, and the times set in the morning and afternoon. The Team Penske trio of cars, Joseph Newgarden, Will Power, and Scott McLaughlin, topped the field in preparation for the next month's doubleheader race weekend. Along with Team Penske, other teams that tested were AJ Foyt Racing, Arrow McLaren SP, Chip Ganassi Racing, Dale Coyne Racing, Meyer Shank Racing, and Ray Hall Letterman Racing. Drivers were kept busy with the toasty temperatures that crept past 90 degrees, and with Will Power, that is, leading the group with 282 laps turned. And thankfully, no accidents took place. Quote, first time at Iowa, so for me, it was learning what the tire degradation does and what the car does over long runs, McLaughlin said. I had an idea that the car would act like it would at Gateway, but it's just a different beast. Certainly makes it different to try and tame this track, and I learned a ton off of my teammates. Joseph, at a lunch break, gave me a lot of tips, and I put some of them to use in the afternoon and made some time. McLaughlin, too, was blown away by the high sustained speeds at the Iowa Speedway and the short timed laps. Quote, it's sick. It's like a video game. It's awesome, he said. Big focus for me was figuring out the difference between old and new tires, as being out there on old tires while other guys were out on new tire runs, and me still having to make speed was the main thing to learn. Super fun track. It was great to run the second groove too, and I have to learn lane diversity. Iowa's right up my alley. So here are some of the unofficial times, obviously, at testing for Iowa testing at Iowa rather this past Monday. Joseph Newgarden, his quickest lap, 18.37 seconds. Will Power, 18.52 seconds. Scott McLaughlin, 18.53 seconds. Takuma Sato, 18.59 seconds. Christian Lundgaard, 18.7 seconds. Pato Award, 18.81 seconds. Marcus Ericsson, 18.83 seconds. Graham Rahal, 18.84 seconds. Elio Castroneves, 18.86 seconds. Scott Dixon, 18.87 seconds. Jack Harvey, 18.89 seconds. So you can see how close these lap times are. David Malukas, 18.89 seconds. Jimmy Johnson, 19.04 seconds. Alex Palou again, 19.04 seconds. Simon Pagenaud, 19.7 seconds. Callum Ilott, 19.2 seconds. Felix Rosenquist, 19.2 seconds. Kyle Kirkwood, 19.3 seconds. And rounding out the drivers who tested at Iowa this past Monday, Dalton Kellett, 19.5 seconds. So those are your quickest laps there at the testing on Monday for the Iowa race coming up this next weekend. So it doesn't look like that Tim is going to be able to join us. So I'm going to look and see if there's any more news that needs to be covered here. As usually we do this about an hour long podcast, but unfortunately, attempting to get guests this week just didn't fall into the cards, so to say. So I'm going to look on IndyCar.com to see if there are any news that we haven't went over yet with the announcement of the new tires, obviously with Firestone a few days ago, and then you have the testing that took place this week as well. I guess, like I said, like I opened up the show, I know we're in the midway point. We're at the midway point of the 2022 season. And it's interesting when you think about it. The question is going into 2022. Obviously, the second half of 2022. What driver or drivers, for that matter, do you think would need a strong finish to the year and to build a little bit of momentum going into to 2023? And I think a couple names come to mind to me if I was asked that question. First, I think the obvious answer would be Felix Rosenquist. Obviously, there was news coming out today. Let me see if I can find if there was a press release sent out by Arrow McLaren. It was announced today that Arrow McLaren and Felix Rosenquist are going to continue their partnership into 2023. It's not known yet at this time as to what series Felix is going to be driving in. But let me go back through. I know it was posted on their Facebook page earlier today, and I put it out on the Push to Pass Facebook page here. Here it is. Here is the announcement, the official announcement for Arrow McLaren and Felix Rosenquist going into 2023. Felix Rosenquist to remain with McLaren Racing from 2023. McLaren Racing has signed a multi-year deal with Felix Rosenquist to remain on the team's driver roster from 2023 and beyond. McLaren Racing is currently in the process of evaluating its driver lineups for 2023 with the new formed McLaren Formula E team set to embark on its debut season in the all-electric racing series and plans to expand Arrow McLaren SP into a 3-car team with Felix set to be driving in one of the 2 series. Felix from Sweden joined Arrow McLaren SP in the NTT IndyCar series in 2021. Since joining the series in 2019, when he was named Rookie of the Year, Felix has secured 3 podiums and 2 pole positions. Felix recently finished the 106th running of the Indianapolis 500 in an impressive 4th place and currently occupies a spot in the top 10 among a competitive drivers' championship. Rosenquist's racing career also includes a stint in Formula E, so he does have a little bit of experience there, having raced in the series for 3 seasons from 2016 to 2019, winning 3 races, securing 6 pole positions and 7 podiums. The full Arrow McLaren SP and McLaren Formula E 2023 driver lineups will be confirmed in due course. This is a quote from Felix Rosenquist. "I'm delighted to be remaining with McLaren for 2023 and beyond. With the team expanding into Formula E next season, it provides additional opportunities for me both in the USA and Europe, and I look forward to being in a position to announce my plans in the coming weeks. I've loved my time with Arrow McLaren SP team in IndyCar, driving the number 7 car, and we've had some great memories together, including securing pole earlier this year in Texas and coming home P4 in the Indy 500. I'm excited and grateful to be given this opportunity to explore the new options available to utilize my experience to help McLaren to start 2023 on the strongest possible footing." And then a quote here from CEO of McLaren Racing, Zach Brown. "I'm delighted to be continuing our relationship with Felix. He's a fantastic racer with a lot of experience in many different types of racing cars. As a proven race winner in both categories, it was important for us to secure his talent within the McLaren racing family as we work to finalize our plans for 2023. His experience in Formula E would be invaluable as we head into the exciting new era of racing for McLaren Racing, but he would also make a fantastic contributor to our IndyCar team. I look forward to working together with him to finalize the best opportunity for him next season." So big news, I think, coming out of the Arrow McLaren camp, as it's been rumored for quite some time that they want to add another car to their stable in 2023. Will it be Felix Rosenquist, or will he be joining McLaren Racing in the new team formed there in Formula E? It remains to be seen. But congratulations to Felix to being able to lock down what he's going to be doing from 2023 beyond. I would love to see him stay in the number 7 car in IndyCar. But I know he has a background in Formula E, so if he thinks that's the best opportunity for him, then obviously, Felix, you go do what you think is best. But definitely glad to see Felix Rosenquist back in the fold for Arrow McLaren going into 2023. But getting back to talking a little bit about Felix Rosenquist, I think he and another driver, and I'll talk about that other driver here shortly, the second half of 2022, I think are going to be huge for them, not only finishing the season on a strong note, but finishing the season and having that momentum going into the offseason, going into to 2023. First, obviously, Felix Rosenquist, as we talked about, it was announced today he is re-signed for 2023. But like I said, he didn't name, nor did Zach Brown, if he'll be driving for the NTT IndyCar series or if he'll be in their Formula E outfit. But you do have to give it to Felix Rosenquist the last 5 weeks. He has been a consistent finisher with 4 consecutive top 10 finishes. And then what a awesome run that he had at the Indianapolis 500, finishing fourth. So you look at the current standings, Felix Rosenquist sits eighth. And I haven't had the opportunity to have an interview with him yet, but the a reputation he has around the paddock is just off the charts. Super nice guy, and he definitely has earned the respect of his fellow drivers and peers, especially one Scott Dixon, who he drove and was teammates with from 2019 to 2020. A little more on Felix Rosenquist here, but he's going to be, like I said, if he does choose, think about this for a minute. If he does choose to stay in the number 7 car next year, and doesn't head back to Formula E, which it does sound like he may do that, and we'll pick up the discussion here on Felix Rosenquist a little later, because I was afraid that this gentleman would be so busy with what he does that he'd be able to join us. It was a sporadic conversation to have, but so glad that Tim May is able to join us here on Push to Pass. Tim, I have to say, first and foremost, something I haven't told you in the conversations that we've had. Is
it going to make me cry?
No.
Okay.
Would I make you cry? No, I would never have guessed that sitting at home in Northwest Ohio, reading your work you did in the Buckeye Sports Bulletin, that now I'm going to be interviewing you. I would have never guessed that.
Well, I've never worked for the Buckeye Sports Bulletin, but you're close, LettermanRow.com. And then before that, of course, the Columbus Dispatch. But, let's get on with it, man. I don't know what kind of questions or what kind of insights you're looking for from me, but I will try to provide it.
Well, I started with recapping the first half of the season. What a roller coaster I think it's been. You had Team Penske right out of the gates. The first 3 wins. Who's been tougher than Joseph Newgarden?
Yeah,
in the first half of the year as well. Points championship has bounced back and forth as well. I know you've been there for the ride so far. What is your take? What have you seen from the first half of the year?
My take is that this ought to be it is so close to Joseph Newgarden just running away with everything. I mean, and I'm just thinking about the strategy that hurt him in, for example, in Detroit, or what a run he would have had. But to me, it looks like Joseph Newgarden's championship to lose, no matter what the points say at the moment.
It definitely seems like the second half of the year, especially the tracks that he and the rest of the competitors are going to go to, it sets up perfectly for him.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And that includes Mid-Ohio, of course. I think he's going to be very tough there, for example. But you're right. I mean, Penske just didn't have the magic at Indianapolis for a second straight year. I'm talking about the Indianapolis Motor Speedway Oval. Of course, not Will Power's gym on the road course, but I'm just curious to see what's going to happen here as this season goes on. From the standpoint of, I think they've got a pretty good combination from the standpoint of a road course setup and a street course setup. So, like you say, though, one strategy change, one raindrop here, et cetera, can change everything.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And on the flip side of this coin, we talked about the people the drivers that had a amazing first half. And obviously we have to talk about the ones that we thought would come out of the gates a little stronger. And I think one name that rises to me is Colton Herta.
Yeah. It's hard to put your finger. I don't know how to explain it. I forgot the driver who said this. It might have been at Detroit. It might have even been Joseph Newgarden. But there's a new superstar every week, it seems like, in this series. It pops up and everybody's proclaiming this to be the next great driver. And Colton Hurdle has kind of been that guy. There's no doubt about his about his talent, and we'll see where it goes from the standpoint of his shot at a Formula One career. But there are quite a few guys that are getting it done right now, and you're one mistake from going from first place to 10th place in this series on any given Sunday. And but Colton Herta is a guy that clearly has intrigued a lot of people. I'd like to see a few more really big time results out of him before you proclaim him the next absolute great driver. But he's definitely in the conversation.
Yeah, he absolutely is. And you think about the handful of races that Colton has either had the lead late or he's had the best car, and he can't be that closer. They talk about Kevin Harvick being the closer in NASCAR, and he just seems like something issue, or he loses it in a turn. I can think of Nashville, for example, last year where he had a great car and you've seen the outcome there. And then he's had that this year as well. He just can't close.
Yeah. Well, he's close sometimes, but you're right. I mean, the Nashville thing was just a classic mistake, and the great thing about it is he owned it, but you're right. I mean, I think the word we're looking for there is consistently great, or maybe that's two words, right? But you're looking for him to be more consistent. And some of that could, I think the Andretti Autosport team has been hot and cold, obviously, this year. And I think that might be part of his problem, maybe sometimes even carrying the car on occasion. But, there's still some great racing left to be done here in this season. And he's definitely a guy you got to keep your eye on.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think somebody else that I don't know if it's just, I don't know if it's age is catching up with him, because, just as well as I do, you cannot run Father Time. But Scott Dixon, I think, is somebody that has been in the hunt year after year, but now he's been awfully quiet this year.
Well, he was pretty damn loud the first 180 laps or whatever it was of the Indianapolis 500, starting on the pole and then basically dominating that race until, of course, just makes a big mistake. Still isn't clear whether maybe something malfunctioned with his car coming into the pits. But what wasn't debated was the fact that he was caught speeding. And whether it's a mile an hour or 10 miles an hour, the penalty is the same. And we'd be talking totally differently about him right now in this season if he had continued to finish that race and the way he dominated. But it's really interesting because I got to talk to Marcus Ericsson today ahead of the Ohio State, ahead of the Mid-Ohio race that's coming up here shortly. And, I think Marcus Ericsson and Scott Dixon had the two best cars in that race, and they both came to the fore Ericsson was kind of like laying in the weeds. Obviously, Dixon was in control of the situation, but it looked like Ericsson had at least as good a car, if not better, when it mattered the most. And like I was talking to him about, man, it is, wow, what a great feeling you must have deep in your gut when there's so many laps left in the Indianapolis 500, and you've got by just maybe a hook or crook the fastest car. And Dixon, I mean, I'm not sure his age, man. I mean, like we just talked a while ago, this series now, these cars, they've had these cars for so long. Everybody's got such a great grip on these cars from the standpoint of, most people do at least, what makes them fast, what makes them go fast. Engine wise, the engines look almost like a push. Yeah, you can make an argument for Chevy here and Honda there, but just one minor mistake in the pits, one minor deep braking situation that takes you off track, and suddenly, you go from hero to zero in a heartbeat. And I think it's really hard to really get a true feel for who is in control at this point in this year. But the guy that's closest to it by far, in my opinion, is Joseph Newgaard.
Oh, absolutely. And I think the results speak for themselves. 3 wins, 2 in a row. He's seen a couple weeks ago at Road America, he wins the cool $1 million. But I think you're absolutely right that if there's somebody that has a grip so far, he may not be the leader in points yet, but I think you're absolutely right that it is Joseph Newgarden. What is one of the rookies, Tim, that have stood out to you in this class in 2022?
I don't know. I was thinking about that very thing earlier, only because sometimes I forget who's a rookie and who isn't. You know what I'm saying? But I'm trying to remember if how do you pronounce his name? Callum
Ilott.
See, I like that guy a lot. You know, I'm not sure he always gets the best support, but I think he's pretty damn good. But that guy, I mean, veteran drivers have talked about him in the sense of they think he is very talented. You know, he shows up. He's got a better resume than most people think. It looks like he snuck up on people, but I don't know. That guy, in my opinion, is interesting. I've got my eye on him for the future for sure.
Yeah, I had the opportunity to interview him at during the month of May, and I think you're absolutely right. And the work that he is doing, let's put this into perspective. The work that he is doing on the track with only one car. You look at some of these other teams that have multiple cars, and he's doing this with just one car gathering one set of data. So I think kudos to Callum Ilott and the job that he's doing. Another rookie that I like really well, and you may disagree, is the job that David Malukas has done the first half of the year.
Oh yeah, and it to me it's interesting because I was literally talking to Marcus Ericsson about this very thing. Is this series, what's so cool about it is big time. It is major league, but almost everybody's got the same baseball and bat. You know what I mean? The same puck and stick. And like I said, some teams have honed that stick a lot better than the others have, but still, the end of the day, you've got a piece of equipment that you can hustle a little bit, and be in the running and show what you're about. And Lucas, I mean, obviously, is that kind of guy. I mean, I know there was some conjecture about Rookie of the Year at Indianapolis for the Indianapolis 500. I had no problem with Jimmy Johnson being the Rookie of the Year because he had a pretty damn good month there. Yeah, in the race, he faded. Most of the time, that's not the driver's fault. A car you just don't get a grip on, and just everybody else is getting a grip on theirs. But Malukas is definitely a guy who was quite deserving also. But I'm not going to put down Jimmy Johnson's effort. And Rookie of the Year is about a lot more than just how you finish in the race, in my opinion, because anything can happen on race day, as you well know. And but Malukas is definitely, like I said, dude, there's talent up and down the roster now. I mean, there's no let up. It's not like the old days back in the 80s when I first started covering this, and you had kind of like three levels of cars. Now, everybody's not running up front. Some guys are getting lapped, blah, blah, blah. But back in the good old days, you had the front runners, you had those guys that ran in the middle, and then you had the guys that were in the back that had no chance of winning. And now, on any given qualifying situation, you can be in the Fast Six. You can be in the whatever they call it, the Firestone Fast Six, and then the next week you can not get out of the first round of qualifying. And we're talking about veterans and rookies alike. So that's what you're dealing with. But I like Malukas. I mean, I think you can see he and Ilott, have talent. It's just a matter of, like you said, getting the breaks and putting it all together.
Yeah, in this rookie class, actually, Tim, as a whole, I think there's talent up and down it. It's just a matter of, like you said, the car hitting right or the setup hitting right, but up and down this rookie class, I think there's talent, and I think you have.
Well, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, exactly. That's another one, and I know she's been out of action for a while, but the drive that Simona De Salvestro had at Road America with what she has to work with Parrott Motorsports, give her kudos there as well.
Well, no, she's talented. I mean, she's obviously not a rookie, but probably qualifies as being one from being out of the seat for so long. But I've always liked her. I always thought that she had the ability, just get her into something that she can definitely compete in, which I'm not sure yet that's happened. That's not casting any aspersions, but yeah, I'm sitting there at Indy this year, as a matter of fact, and you know how you reflect on things sometimes, and I'm just going, man, I saw Danica Patrick come to the place, I saw Sarah come to the place, and a few other females, and yet there they were in the 160 Indianapolis 500, and there were no, I'm just wondering why someone can't come along that can have staying power in a decent piece of equipment. And the same goes for African American drivers. You've seen Willie T come along and et cetera, but just no one with staying power. And it's kind of still an interesting club to get into, it looks like.
Yeah, that's a great point, and that's something that I've never thought about. But I think you're absolutely right as to why is it that it's just certain groups that have staying power, that can find consistent rides and things of that nature. I think you're absolutely right.
Yeah, and it's not just I'm not casting aspersions in that regard, because like you just said, the rookies we were just talking about, including Kyle Kirkwood, I like that guy a lot, man. And like I said, it's the machine you get into. And as much as I made a point a while ago about these machines have been around for so long that most of them have been honed to a pretty fine edge, there are still some that are playing catch up in that regard, or still haven't gotten it to the point, for example, the Penske team has, or the Ganassi team has. And it's really funny. I remember there was a driver from the Columbus area named Ed Pym way back in the 80s. And he drove for Dan Gurney's team, All-American Racers. And that team never really came up with a car that was super competitive. And I remember him saying to me one time, he goes, I'd like to drive a Penske car just for a weekend, just to find out, is it me or is it the car? And I think a lot of guys yearn for that. But like we were talking about a while ago, as competitive as it is this year, Alex Palou has been fairly unspectacular. And yet, Alex Palou is damn good, riding that championship. Pato O'Ward. I mean, how do you not like that guy, And but from week to week to put together those consistent performances has been tough for them and their teams.
Well, and you talk about the performance this year of the reigning champion, Alex Palou. Somebody that I think has fell off the radar, Rinus VeeKay.
Yeah. He seems to be a victim, and this is just almost from the outside looking in. He seems to be a victim of almost trying too hard. I mean, for one of another way of putting it, I think he's quick, but boy, it's just that, this racing is so punitive when you make one little mistake, and or just one little lapse, or just one little impulsive move, as opposed to a planned move, and it can really bite you. And I think he's been the victim of that as much as anything. But I don't think there's any doubt that guy can drive fast.
Yeah, he absolutely can, and I think you're spot on that it's one thing that comes up to bite him. Is it because he's trying too hard? He's not going to admit that. But I think you're absolutely right that it's one thing after another that's coming up to bite him. Is it because, like you said, he's trying too hard? We'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah, that may not be what it is. No. Like you said, it will play out over time. But he's still way young enough to give him the benefit of the doubt, because it's like a thoroughbred. You can slow one down, but it's really hard to speed one up. And I think he's a guy if anything, they maybe needs to slow down a little bit, for one of another way of putting it. But we'll see.
But it's hard for racers that have that mentality that they want to go, but then you want to tell them slow down. It's hard to reverse that. I guess.
Yeah. That's a good way of putting it. Hey, I don't know. I've only got a little bit of time left, but I wanted to say too, you're talking a while ago about age and stuff, man. The guy that's impressed me, and maybe you're coming to him, but I think Will Power, and in many respects, is as good as he's ever been. And then he is like fine wine. He has aged incredibly well. And I'm really curious to see what he does the back half of this schedule, because, that drive he had, I told him that drive he had at Detroit was just vintage. I don't mean to keep using the wine vernacular, though, but it was vintage, maybe as good a drive as he's ever done from the standpoint of keeping his wits about him, being patient, climbing through the field, and then basically at the end, not letting anybody pass him, which is the essence of a race car driver. Obviously Alexander Rossi was closing on him, but that doesn't mean he was going to pass him, because Will was just trying to get that car to the end of the race. He still had a lot left in that car, but the way he performed, getting the pole on the road course at Indy, he was able to summon that lap, and like the good old days. And boy, when he's got the bit between his teeth, he's still a sight to behold, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. When Will and the car are dialed in and they're two in the same, it's him against the rest of the field. I think you're absolutely right. And you talk about the driving that he did at Detroit. The one segment that sticks out in my mind was the last 20 laps when he had to go to Reds. Everybody knew that the Reds were being torn to pieces, and he had to drive his tail off to hold off a hard-charging Alexander Rossi.
Actually, he was trying not to drive his tail off, so he wouldn't. Yeah. He tried to keep his tail under him, so he wouldn't be sliding. So it would, like he said, what he was trying to do more than anything else was drive that car as straight as he could. Yeah. And of course, he was on a road course or a street course. But no, I got your call there. But you're exactly right.
All right, last question, Tim. Like I said, I know your time is valuable. Looking ahead to the second half of the year, I know we talked about Joseph Newgaard, and I mean that's kind of the obvious there. What drivers, in your opinion, your eyes, you see that are within the top 10 in points? I know with that being so close as well, that could be a thorn in the side of the top three, like Marcus Ericsson, like Will Power, like Joseph Newgarden.
Well, I don't have the top 10 in front of me here, but I'll tell you a team that I'm interested in is from right down it's 25 miles away from where I live here, but right down the road, the way I call it, is I'm really curious to see what happens with the Meyer-Shank team down the road, because there are a couple of street courses coming up where I think they can be pretty good, but they've been not very good on the road courses. And you're talking about a couple of veteran drivers there with Elio and Simon Pagenaud. I think Simon Pagenaud, I think he might be due. I mean, we'll see how that goes. But there's a guy that, in my opinion, can be a spoiler at one of these tracks, and it could be in Toronto, because they're going back to Toronto after a long hiatus. We'll see how that goes. But and then of course Nashville, because they definitely have a really good street setup, it looks like. And then past that, I'm just bringing this guy up because I know he's frustrated right now, is Graham Rahal. And he's a guy that a lot of people are throwing darts at now. And I think it's very unfortunate, because if you really study that three-car team of two youngsters, well, heck, Graham's still a youngster, but with Jack Harvey and Newgaard, for the most part, Graham is carrying the water for that team. Yeah, they've had Newgaard's had a couple of interesting moments this year, but not consistent at all. But they've clearly had some troubles in the engineering side of things. It does appear, for example, the Meyer-Shank team still, I think, benefits from a cooperation, at least with the Andretti Autosport team from an engineering standpoint or setup, whatever you want to call it. The Rahal Letterman Lanigan team has not found those ideal setups this year. It's pretty obvious in qualifying, but several times with Detroit accepted, several times Graham has just carried that car to the front or toward the front. Let's put it that way. And I'm really curious to see what happens with him this second half of the year.
Yeah, you bring up an interesting name that I wasn't thinking about in Graham Rahal. I absolutely love the guy being an Ohio guy. I absolutely love him. But I thought he said something interesting that you brought up, talking about they're lacking in the engineer department. I'm wondering if maybe that kind of sounds the alarm or kind of kicks the backside of Rahal Lanigan Racing to kind of up their game a little bit when it comes to the engineering department.
We'll see. But he had that pretty cryptic quote after the Indy 500. I ran it. I mean, I had video of it and posted it on my site. But about it was appalling. That the performance they had at Indianapolis. I think he finished 14th, and just they're not. He wasn't happy, and he was kind of like he said, not going to, in essence, hide that anymore. And of course, like we were just talking about a while ago about young drivers, right? And what kind of equipment you're in. And you can look like a hero or a zero. It can be your fault and it can be your car's fault. But bottom line is nobody cares. They want to see results, right? And just like you and I.
Yep, that's the name of the game, I think, at the end of the day, results.
By the way, I think Palou is going to be a spoiler the last half of the year when you were asking me about spoilers or guys that could really step up. I think Pato has another win or two in his arsenal there. We'll see. But those are, I know where they are in the points, but my point is, I think those guys could really come to the fore here the last half.
Yeah, you kind of stole my thunder there with Pato O'Ward. No, no.
I like him a lot. I just like him a lot. I think he's extremely talented. You can watch him, the way he handles the car, and see how talented he is. I mean, that restart a year ago at Detroit, like I asked him, I said, a lot of people were wondering how you kept your tires warm or how you warmed your tires up, whatever. I said, what was your secret there? And he said, fast hands. So, and I don't think anybody doubts that now. Matter of fact, a lot of the drivers now have picked up on that and used that same kind of a description of the way he drives.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Pato O'Ward is somebody that I feel can spoil in the second half of the year and make a run towards the championship towards the end of the year. And then two other ones that I have, another car that comes from that Aero McLaren stable is Felix Rosenquist. The way he's finishing consistently as of late, and then the news today where he knows where he's going to be in 2023 and beyond. I think Felix Rosenquist is somebody to watch out for. And then you can't go wrong with Alexander Rossi. The way he has been in the zone as of late, wanting to finish on a high note for Andretti Autosports going into 2023. Those three, O'Ward, Rossi, and Rosenquist, I have my eye on in the second half of the year.
Yeah, Rosenquist, man, he kind of reminds me of Bottas, over in Formula One. Just kind of quietly goes about kind of doing his thing, but he hasn't been super spectacular yet, and I think he has shown, like you've said, signs of being capable of doing things. He's had a little bit of bad luck, obviously, along the way and stuff. Rossi, I don't know. It's just interesting. He gets a lot of run, and I think justifiably so, but like you said, he just hadn't had the results to really back it up for the last, God knows how long. And there's no doubt about his talent. There's no doubt about watching him climb from the back of the field sometimes to some of the most spectacular stuff you're ever going to see. But, finally, you got to win a race or two. And, who knows? Mid-Ohio might be that spot for him.
Yeah, he definitely has that monkey on his back that he definitely needs to win a race to get rid of that, and I think he's going to be right up there.
Hey, we named almost everybody in the series, except maybe Romain Grosjean. What do you think?
I think you're absolutely right. Yeah, I never thought about that, but yeah, you're
Well, I
absolutely
mean,
right.
it's just interesting. Marcus Ericsson is the other the Formula One guy who came and has sort of reclaimed his career. Roman Grosjean obviously came in like a comet, but there's another guy you expect maybe a little more consistency or better things from. We'll see what happens the last half of the season.
Yeah, I think it'll be obviously exciting to say the least. Tim, again, I want to say a huge thank you for taking some time out of your busy schedule. I know Ryan Day and the recruits he's pulling in have to be keeping you busy as of late. Also, I want to give you huge props to listen to your interview the other day with Johnny Dixon. Absolutely loved Johnny D when he was here at Ohio State. You did a tremendous job on that. For people that don't already follow you on social media, and shame on them rather if they don't, where can they find you at?
Well, on Twitter, I'm Tim underscore May Sports, all one word, May Sports, all one word. And I've got a YouTube channel that I post from time to time, mainly stuff about auto racing, mainly stuff about IndyCar. And then, of course, I've got my podcast, which is through LettermanRow.com, which is primarily about college football. And then past that, a lot of emphasis on Ohio State football, as you well know. And by the way, Johnny Dixon, he's one of my favorite players ever at Ohio State. And I gave him the nickname, the Johnny Lightning Special, a long time ago, kind of like where my worlds collide. You see what I'm saying? But,
Yeah, absolutely. I would love to one day sit down and talk Ohio State football with you.
Well, we can do that. But by the way, you saw where Cade Stover was named, has been named the Grand Marshal for the IndyCar race at Mid Ohio here coming up shortly.
I did see that earlier today. I seen that.
He grew up in that area, farmer's boy, and one of the great guys, man, you're ever going to run into on a football field.
Yeah, absolutely. Would love to, like I said, talk to him, and then, like I said, I sit down with you and just pick your brain.
And by the way, Cade Stover is a tight end at Ohio State. For those who don't know who he is,
he did because I believe I think we talked about this because he did come in as he enrolled as a linebacker, didn't he?
Well, he ended up at tight end. Then they moved him to linebacker last year, especially, and he played in the Rose Bowl at linebacker. And then in the spring, they figured out maybe they're only going to play two linebackers for the most part in this new 4-2-5 setup they've got under Jim Knowles, the new defensive coordinator. So they needed his depth, basically his physicality at tight end. So they moved him back to tight end at the end of spring, and I think he likes it there. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, absolutely. Tim, again, a huge thank you for coming on, spending a little bit of time here. I will see you, I think, back at Indy towards the end of July, and then I think we'll run into each other in Nashville in August.
You got it, brother. Always a pleasure, man. I enjoyed talking to you. You know that, absolutely. You already knew that, though, didn't you?
Oh, I knew that going in, yes.
And tell your daughter, I hope her softball team plays well. That's all I got.
You know what? Believe it or not, she got not one but two game balls this year. I was shocked. I was shocked at getting two.
I was shocked that you were able to get to her games and get back to the speedway. I mean, I don't know what kind of gas you're burning in that vehicle, but it must be high octane.
Well, it wasn't $6 a gallon at the time. I can tell you that.
Gotcha, baby.
Yeah. Tim, again, huge thank you for joining us, and look forward to seeing you down the road.
You get anytime, brother. See you then.
Yep. See you later. That was Tim May. Go check him out. Great coverage when it comes to auto racing, IndyCar. And then, like I said, he has a passion for covering Ohio State football. If you're into that type of thing, definitely can't wait to see him at Indianapolis at the end of July and Nashville in the beginning of August. So that wraps it up for episode number 4. Hopefully everyone enjoyed the content that was brought here this evening. As always, if you would please make sure you follow the Push to Pass podcast on Facebook, Getter, True Social, and Twitter. We'll be back next week previewing the Mid Ohio race, and hopefully we may have a driver or two stop by. We'll have to see how that works out. Obviously, we'll have Mike from Bet IndyCar, stopping by to tell us how he did last weekend or 2 weekends ago at Road America. And then he will preview the betting lines and fantasy for Mid-Ohio next week. So huge thank you to everyone that listened or watched, and we will see you in the next episode.